Hi guys. It's crazy how I'm affected with the lunar phases, and when there's a new moon, it's crazy how I'm tossing around in my bed like yesterday. Like this morning I woke up at 6 a.m. and I just couldn't stop thinking, having ideas. My mind was going all intensely, like my energy was unrested. I was going everywhere in my mind, but in a positive way. I had a lot of ideas to scribble down. So I was tossing and turning, because I was excited and thinking about many ideas. And I'm like, let me check when is the new moon. And indeed, the new moon was 2 days ago. So that shows you how I'm very sensitive with the energy vibrations. Like I've always known as I grew in my spiritual awakening that the moon does have a great effect on me, but I never took the time to actually I'm not as interested like many people who could like look into it. Where's the moon at? Pisces, Aries, whatever. I'm like not looking too much into it, but it's just confirmed to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is why I'm so interested in it, fiddling around and everything. So I scribbled many ideas that I could make as content and in my video blog, but I don't have time to do it all, so I'm just gonna start with the first one. It's funny because as I'm reading so many different books that God is so blessing and the universe is just perfect in terms of synchronicities, I read each book came into my life in a perfect timing. So I read the book before about The Power of Letting Go from Dr. Hawkins. Well, he comes himself doctors, right? Then I read about The Power of Now from Eckhart Tolle. I read another book, and right now I'm reading the book of The Seven Habits of Efficient People. And I did not expect this book to be the way it is. I thought it was about like more masculinity, energy, more like about doing, doing, doing. But then the first chapter, the introduction was already about talking about spirituality and God and God's presence, and just before that I read this about the seven spiritual laws of success, which is basically the seven spiritual laws of life in general. This is another video I'm going to talk about, where it's very interesting because when you grow into yourself inner guidance, when you become more smart, should I say, and just self-observe and observe about your surroundings, all of those spiritual laws I've been applying and understanding for quite a while. And I never thought about it like a law or something I would put in a book, but just that shows you that all the answers that you seek and all the knowledge and the wisdom is within yourself and within your environment, right? You learn so much when you truly are paying attention and you're being intentional about it, and when you're asking for it, right? When you're praying for it to keep growing, keep evolving. Well, all the spiritual laws was actually something I already wrote about in different wordings in my journaling, or it's something I shared with it. It's something I came into conclusion and I've been applying unconsciously myself. So I was very feeling humbled by this. As I was reading it, it just allowed me to say, oh my gosh, this is what I've realized. This is what I already said. This is what I already written. This is something I've already shared. And it humbles me to see that truly self-observant, self-observation and the truth and answers is all within. It's wow, it's incredible, guys. Anyhow, so as I'm reading those books, you just like you're reading a bit there, like you often just start reading the book. I don't personally search about the author and looking into more like who's this author, who are they, what's the credentials, what's their, what's the studies to be bringing this book forward. I just dive into the content of the book and I'm reading what it is about, and I'm feeling it, if it's going to be a good fit for me or not, where I'm at in my life. And then sometimes out of curiosity, I'm reading Okay, who's this guy? Deepak Deepak, whatever, who's created this book and other books about spiritual laws, and who are they to know about those, right? Then you read the short summary in the book, and it's just about they've been doing that, and they've been sharing around the world, and they've been selling best-selling books, and na 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 na, and it just doesn't give you the credentials of what gives them is the knowledge to be a spiritual teacher, right? Or the credentials, or the proofs. It's just very a short introduction of them that doesn't show me how they've come to write this book and all this content and all this amazing content, you know. And it shows you that at the end of the day, when people buy books, I know that some of them do buy it because it's a best. At the end of the day, people buy it more because it's been sold so many times, right? Confirmation of the community, more than just like, oh, I know this author, I'm gonna buy from him because I trust him and I know he's good in what he does, right? And even if people buy it because he does, very rarely those people who love those X authors or Y authors is because they've been following deeply their parkour and their journey since the beginning of their life, to know how they evolved to become this amazing author. Like, very few people, I imagine, do follow those authors' lives to know that what they're bringing on the table is actually, wow, truthful and interesting. No, we just reading their content, connect to their content, feel like it's a truth, and then that's how they get known, you know? So my question to you is that we tend to oversell credentials because we want to call out our logical side of our ego mind, to say, hey, they've studied X, they've had a PhD, they have done that years of experience, they must know what they're talking about. But truly, I say to you, when you read the Bible and other biblical scriptures, I'm reading one about the life of Jesus that's just amazing, guys. You can tell it's divine words and divine truth. Why? Because it just speaks to your soul and your heart, and you just know the way it has been worded, that it cannot possibly come from a human mind only, and you just know it resonates with you. And it's crazy. And when you think about the Bible, how it's been written, the people who wrote those things, it's a mash up of different authors, different people that was regular people actually wrote those stories and those lessons and those episodes of Jesus' life and what he spoke about. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day who writes it, because if they what they write about is actually the truth that resonates with you, then that's what matters. If you can get a lesson from it and an inspiring revelation for you, and understanding and a realization from those words, then it doesn't matter who wrote it. It doesn't matter how many years they've been into this field. It doesn't matter who is this author, because the truth is the truth. And I put that forward just to showcase that we lose ourselves often in the industry of business and work and corporations. We lose ourselves so much into this credential side. And when you think about it, for me personally, I don't even use my credentials as my studies and everything anymore. Like, I just go with the flow, and I just go with what my heart is saying at this point, and I know what I'm wording out does resonate with people, and just being authentic and staying true to myself. But obviously, when you go to an interview and you want to get this job, you're going to use your credentials and write it down, how many years of studies, what you've been doing before, what your experience, right? But at the end of the day, when you think about it, when people actually go to those interviews, the more stuffed CV, curriculum vitae, might not be the perfect fit for the company versus another one that has less experience, less credentials than the other one, the next candidate, just because there's some things that you cannot put on paper. There's some things in terms of your soft skills, in terms of your energy, in terms of your values, in terms of what you have as a vision. Does it fit with the company or not? So even in the practical side of it, credentials don't matter as much as people out are to think. And I just want to stress that enough to just prove to you guys, don't think too much about those credentials. Don't try to re-question the person in front of you and see how many years they've had or not, or whatever. Of course, the more you have experience, which is street experience, which is street smart, the more the person will be able to have seen different outcomes and different situations, so they can bring you different tools, right? But when it comes to understanding truth or learning or having different things, it's the person on YouTube. Of course, you feel like I'm sending myself flowers since I'm creating on YouTube, but the random person on YouTube's creating some content is as valuable for you maybe as the person who's written 10 best selling books and is wild worldwide known, right? And I'm not discrediting those people who have, I'm certain, worked so hard and have a lot of pressure to produce. And I'm certain that, I feel like people start in a humble way, and then as success follows you, financial success, social success, or recognition on the worldwide scale, then you kind of lose yourself with the pressure, right? Because the ego comes into mind, self pressure and social pressure. But I don't take that away, but I'm just saying, don't put yourself pressure into finding content that comes only from those that you seem to believe that they're professionals or credentials. Open your heart, open your mind into what calls you out and what type of content you are looking into, right? And it's funny because I'm finishing up with this, where two of my friends in two different settings mention often, like they have a job, they're paid they're paid employees, and often in the discussion, you can tell they don't feel, as today especially, it's better than before, I guess. But like, I know they just focus on the products, on the results, rather on the employee especially. I can I've experienced it quite a few times, and I know that working in a setting of being an employee and being in an organization was not for me. Like, I'd rather be free and be on my own. It has its perks more than it has not. It depends on what you're looking for. But obviously, in this example, she did not feel valued in her job. So she was like kind of not complaining, but just sharing with me. And then more than one time, they were like, like, those people have never been to school and studied business like we did. And we studied marketing, and we studied organizational ways to better the business. And like, I studied and had those years. I have my my bachelor degree, I have this. And then, like, I'm trying to tell them and wave them, hey, I have credentials, I can do more for you, I could help you. And then I understand where she's coming from. And another one too is like, well, I didn't study and I didn't get this more degree just to get this type of salary. I'm gonna get more, like, I'm going to find a new job that's going to value my degrees and value my credentials, because I didn't study for nothing. And I get it. I went to school. I went to university as well. I got a university degree, and we did work a lot. We spent a lot of money on it, spent a lot of time, spent a lot of efforts. I understand you want to get value through it, right? But to what extent? I feel like, wrongly at school, obviously they want to sell the importance of school. So wrongly, we've been programmed to think that school is everything, right? Credentials of school and bachelor degrees and degrees in general is what's going to propulse you forward and get your money whatsoever. But that's for another discussion, where, like, as long as you're being paid as an employee, you're not going to find your financial abundance the same way. And So this other friends told me in another setting, oh yeah, I'm like, I better have this job. I better find another job that's gonna recognize my degrees and pay me accordingly because I deserve a much higher pay grade. Which in terms you get effed, you get fucked because of the taxes. But she was just showing me and trying to explain to me and justifying why she deserved more pay, and the other one was justifying why she should have more responsibility and more of something that brings her into her course and her experience as as a graduate from business school. And as they were all telling me that, I was just thinking, I'm like, yes, I understand where you're coming from, and I know that you should be recognized for all of those studies, but there's the difference between street smart and smart. Street smart and book smart, right? What you're talking at school is a book text smart. I'm not putting that aside because I'm very grateful that I've learned through school and I've seen a lot of those. It helped me become more organized and more able to go through prioritizing, understanding the theory versus the practice. So it gave me a lot of tools, but in the same time, street smart is something where they're just on the go and they're just learning as they're going and they're just practicing and they dealing with the problem as they come, and they know how to truly go through those problems because they lived it and they've experienced it. So it has to be a good balance. I think that those that's just street smart could have some good outcome and positive learnings from the book smarts, and I think the book smarts should not give themselves too much ego representation and given, and actually give some allocation and recognition to those street smart, you know. So as I hear them say often, well, I have a degree, well, I hear just the ego mind saying, well, I'm worth more and I know more because I've had this degree. And we've got to stop focusing on that at the end of the day, like I said, right? Just focus on what calls you, focus on your experience, focus on what you seem to believe that is your calling. And if you don't have the experience or not the degree for it, geez, just self-learn and get to it, you know. But I'm not here to put down any type of education, guys. It's not the time to just separate us and just insult each other's and just put ourselves in secluded groups. I'm here to just say, don't focus too much on the credentials and start looking for truth and learnings that actually resonates with you and calls you out and actually stimulates you. And that's it. Because you'd be surprised, there's freaking books that I don't even know who's this author's coming from, and the Bible is a perfect example where the truth, the spiritual truth, the truth comes in many ways and doesn't come necessarily with credentials, but it's just, you know, it's the truth. It just calls you out. So yeah, I'm just welcoming you to think in this way, and I hope that that just confirms some things you've been thinking about, or just like helps you see things in a new perspective way. So that's it.